All right. Hello, my friends, all of you. Welcome back to Navigating the Unknown. Here we are back. We started this in March, if you all remember. We really started this to figure out where we are and where we are going. So I'm Andrea Stern of SternRep and AskSternRep. These webinars are our place to have some pretty direct discussions to uncover a lot of inside information that does not always get discussed. So that's our purpose today, to be as honest as we can without giving out information we're not supposed to. So thank you, APA LA, for bringing me on to do these with you. APA is a community that we all need to join now. I mean it.
Do it.
Yes. This week we have our co-host, LA photographer and APA board member, Hugh Kretschmer, who's on every week. I don't even need to say this week. And guests, photographer director Caleb Kuhl and producer Luigi F. Rossi joining us. Hello, all of you.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
So let me turn to Hugh first.
Hi, Andrea. It's so great to be back. I've been jonesing to get back with you on these webinars because I think what you're doing and what we're bringing to our audience is so helpful, and it's community building and getting information to everyone that certainly needs it. I've been a board member for about 2.5 years. I think it's been 3 years now. And I'm thrilled to be a part of this organization because APA does a lot than just these webinars. We advocate for our photographers, and it's a sense of community here. So I'm really grateful to be a part of it. And thanks for our esteemed guests for coming in. I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys. I'm sure you have a lot of information that we'll all be benefiting from. So I'm looking forward to it. So back to you, Andrea.
All right. Welcome you too, and we are really thrilled to have you, especially me selfishly, because I rep Caleb Kuhl, photographer director, and it's exciting to do this with somebody I'm in contact with on a daily basis and really know very, very well. So let me begin by introducing you to Caleb Kuhl. Is a 14-year long career photographer, sharing his time between LA and Nashville. He got his start in Nashville shooting for record labels and music editorial magazines. Caleb then moved to LA to shift his focus from music into advertising lifestyle. He's drawn to imagery that tells a story and evokes an emotional response. Caleb is a proud father and husband, very much. He loves road trips, national parks, and barbecue, preferably all in the same weekend.
Yes.
Some recent clients include Chrysler, Chewy.com, Citibank, American Airlines, Budweiser, Home Depot, and Kohl's, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Luigi F. Rossi is an Italian-born, New York City-based filmmaker and producer. Luigi started working on set of multiple TV shows and feature films both in Europe and North America. After a few years, he eventually transitioned to short form content. He has since produced award-winning short films, music, videos, and digital print broadcast commercial campaigns. Clients include brands such as Spotify, Adidas, Converse, Reebok, and Paco Rabanne, to name a few. Is it Rabanne or Rabanne?
Rabanne, I guess.
Rabanne.
That's how they say. That's how they say.
Whatever they say. He loves good food, wine, and music, but most of all, he loves the sea. Classy. You're a classy man. So hello to both of you. Thanks for doing this with us. We all appreciate hearing your inside tips.
For sure. Happy to be here. Stoked about it.
My plan for today, we're going to cover 4 kind of things. I know we try to get in a lot, as much as we can. Today, we're going to talk about what it is like shooting right now. And these two actually shot together, which we're going to talk about that shoot that just finished. Where we are in the whole COVID process and production and how that's changing and what we need to do with that. And I'm noticing a lot more producers and production companies, maybe the same thing, reaching out for photographers directly from the client. And that's like a whole new shift that we need to figure out how, for us photographers, how to get in front of people like Luigi. So we'll learn more about that. And then we'll talk for a few minutes about reps. We'll throw that in there since we have Caleb here to share all the rep talk. Let's get to our questions, and keep the questions coming in, please. We'd love your questions and your thoughts as well. All the attendees. Hugh and I will be staying on after for probably about 15 minutes. We call it wrap chat. Please stay with us if you want to. And Hugh, before we ask some of our viewer questions, let's survey the scene, all of us together. I want to put this out there to everyone. Attendees, please partake in this. Tell us what do you think is going on right now? How is our industry shifting? Where is it? Where we are? Where it's going? I'd love to hear from everybody on that. So Luigi and Caleb and Hugh, what do you think are our industry general, where we are right now? Any trends you're seeing? Anything like that?
Well, I'm just wondering, as we were talking about before, I'm just wondering, this is going to be here to stay for quite some time. You know, the protocols that we're going to be initiating or figuring out and implementing now, I think will be around for a long time. It'll just be part of life, part of these shoots. So, and I think we're just going to get refined in the way they are planned out and the way they are conducted during the shoots. I think that's it. That's from my perspective. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I think COVID's going to be here for a little bit longer. It's interesting to see how shoots have progressed even from the beginning of this, because when it first started, we just honestly had no idea to even, you know, what the protocol was, et cetera. But the more I'm shooting in the era of COVID, I mean, it seems like everyone, at least producers, are getting they're getting it down to a science. So, you know, testing, you know, everything from testing to, you know, box lunches to where you'll even have a PA on set. You can't even grab your own, you know, Coke from the cooler. You know, you have a PA that grabs it for you. So there's a lot of stuff that's like, I think, becoming standardized across the board. And I think we're going to see that implementation for a while now, at least, you know, I'd say for at least the next 2 or 3 years, I would assume.
Yep.
I agree on this. I mean, there's been a shift already because, like, you know, like all of this is ever evolving. We are learning new things every day, and some of the protocols are going to adjust and change based on that. Up until 3 months ago, I'd say, like July is when like we started reshooting in a capacity that was even remotely close to what we were able to do before. Over the, you know, like March through July, everything was done remote. You were only casting people that were living at home. You were sending out 5Ds, an iPhone, whatever it is. I have friends that shot spots where they literally had the whole like production design set be sent over, production designer on Zoom, and just like telling talent, hey, build this there, build this there. Whereas now we're, you know, getting back into like live action as we used to know. The set you mentioned where me and Caleb were on had 50 people on it. So like that was a true production. There are measures that are being implemented, of course, testing. There's COVID control officers on set, sanitizing everything. As Caleb mentioned, he was not able to get a Coke with his own hands, box lunches, etc. But as we move forward, I do see these sticking, but at the same time, ideally getting more production friendly, like measures becoming more production friendly, cost efficient, and finding ways to get us back to somewhat of a normalcy, but during life in a pandemic.
I find like what I'm seeing is a couple things. I'm finding it really busy right now, and I'm wondering if that's because people, clients, companies are afraid this is going to come back in the fall. Shoots are going to stop, so we all have to do it right now.
I feel that same way. Like since work started coming back at like a normal capacity in July, and August and September have been stupid busy for a lot of people I know. And October feels the same way. I do think, like for example, October 1st marked the end of Q3 for clients have budgets per quarters. So a lot of people wanted to get money out and finish everything they had to spend in Q3. We'll see how this Q4 goes for client. But I do think there is a little bit of a scare in terms of like, is a second wave going to hit? Or will we need to do what we did in March and April again, and just kind of take it from there, I guess. For New York, it's nice to shoot when the weather is good. It's still, it's still nice out here. It's not like LA where like you can kind of shoot all year round exteriors. So that's another factor to take into consideration. But yeah, I mean,
Let's just jump into the COVID stuff. Do you find how are locations being affected by this time?
I mean, it is tougher to find locations because when you go into someone's house and you send only a location manager, knock like location scouts, their job is literally to knock on doors and be like, hey, we have a filming opportunity for you. We have X amount of money and you're going to have X amount of people in your house. When you tell someone in 2020, you are going to have 50 people in your house for a day, you can tell them like we're doing deep clean sanitations before the shoot and after the shoot, other standard practices, protection, whatever it is. Right. People are uncomfortable, and they have the right to be uncomfortable. Then there's that fine line with, are you uncomfortable but have you been working? Do you want that X amount of money? So it is
Are they more
tougher.
expensive because of this?
I would say no. I would say that production incurs into more costs because you're offering more. Whereas before, like in a house that could have hosted 30 people, you would have just like fit the 30 people in there, do a little holding area, a little makeup area. Now that set is a hot set. Nobody is allowed to get on set other than people that need to be on set. We have bracelets now where you're zone 1, you're zone 2. You're not allowed to come on set. You're allowed to get close to set, but then you need to pass something off or whatever it is. So there are additional costs for production, but the cost of location is fairly the same, but that's also kind of like, it always depends who you're talking to, who your homeowner is. Is he repped by like a location rep company? So there's many variables.
Right.
You want to ask one of these?
Yeah, there's a question from one of our listeners, Lisa. What been stills versus motion? What industries have been active?
I feel like any shoot I do anymore is a hybrid, and that's whether I'm shooting video first, or, as an ancillary to the primary motion capture, or if I'm doing my own shoot. I mean, I can't honestly, Andrea, correct me if I'm wrong, but I can't remember a shoot that we bid in the last 2 years that didn't have some kind of motion component to it. I think, these agencies are a lot more savvy. They know what, technology is there now. They know they can get motion if they just ask for it. And I think that's what they're doing. Everything that I shoot now is a hybrid. And, again, it just depends on whether the creative is motion capture forward or if it's stills capture forward.
I'm thinking it's like 80%, both of them.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, it's the technology is just there to not do it. I mean, even if I'm shooting stills, having motion capture behind me so they can throw up some little animated GIFs or a motion banner on their website or whatever. I feel like that's pretty much standard fare now.
Yeah,
very, very much.
It's the same for me coming from the video and motion world, where like I haven't done since post-COVID there has not been one commercial job I've been on where I wasn't asked to also either bring on a stills photographer, or sometimes the director that's doing motion is also expected to do still photography. It's
Wow.
just like, it's assets that are like expected and required, I would say, at this point.
This is the norm.
More deliverables. Like deliverables are king.
Right.
Whatever the budgets, like, you know, what could have been considered a big budget even 5 years ago, today is the same budget, but it has 50% more deliverables, 100% more deliverables, and you just got to deliver them.
Yep. That's exactly the same on the still side. It's just like the budgets are staying the same, if not shrinking, and they're asking for insane amounts. I mean, shoot days for us are just, man, it's at least when on the shoots that are, you know, motion or stills forward, it's the deliverables are crazy. Like Andrea did that BMW shoot. I think we had the diversity shoot. We had 3 days. We had, how many shots was it? Like 40 deliverables or 30 deliverables, and we had 7 locations, and this is all in 3 days. And we got it done, but I mean, it is it's exhausting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We have another question from Travis. Should we be requiring negative COVID tests to allow people on set? Luigi, what do you think?
Of course.
That's pretty standard, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is always dependent on a budget, but like I mean, at this point on every single job, honestly, like I'm requiring for people to get tested.
Yeah.
Production covers the cost of that test, and it's just the way it has to be. Those costs, of course, are like, you know, included in a budget when you send them over to clients. And I'm just like, it's one of those things where like I can't personally budge on, because it's the safety of my crews, it's the safety of my people. We're the ones that are going on set and working, and I just need to make sure that everybody is safe and
Right.
tested.
And there's a lot at risk. Yes, health, but also production. Like, what if? There's a lot of what ifs.
There's a lot of what ifs. I've heard already stories of shoots being shut down halfway through,
Wow.
and things like this, and there's just like there's stories and things that like there's just like challenges that like we would have never faced before. So it's just adjusting to all of these.
Right.
Yeah, testing, fundamental.
Yes. Honing your skills.
Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's also like, you know, you can't, like, you don't want to, everything you want to shoot talent wise, like if you're looking at talent, you don't want to have talent with a mask on. Like that's like, there's so many creatives that can have talent with a mask on. What about everything else? Like, we're not going to be seeing in TV on our billboards just like people with masks on. How do you shoot those people safely if they're talent that don't know each other? If you want an older woman on a shoot because that is your creative, how do you not get everyone else tested to make sure she's not exposed to risks? It's just it's the sensible thing to do, and it's just like it is the thing to do, full stop.
Yeah, period.
Yeah,
it just has to happen.
Exactly.
Here's another question. This is from Jim. Can Luigi speak to what a photographer from LA or other COVID hotspots would need to do in order to be allowed to shoot in New York City, let's say, right now? Can we quarantine somewhere else that's not a hotspot first and then go to a New York City production?
You can. So the way, first of all, LA is not on the list. California is a state that is not on the list of quarantine states for New York right now. I believe as of yesterday it was 36 or 34 different states. You are allowed, like if you are in California, or sorry, not in California, in a different state that right now is on the list, Texas, and you get hired for a shoot in New York, you do have to quarantine for 14 days. you don't have to quarantine specifically in your state. You can quarantine in a different state that is not part of that list. You get into New York after 14 days, or you travel from Texas to New York and just stay in New York 14 days. This is the kind of like the general rule. I've heard of productions as well, and just like, ways around it, but they're technically not allowed. What I would say is, again, testing is crucial. If you come in a state and you want to make sure you're okay, get tested once, get tested twice, get tested 3 times. But it's the 14 days. The 14 days are important because productions are then going to ask you on set, like, you're going to be required to fill out a questionnaire form, which is a COVID screening form, where you are going to be asked, have you traveled anywhere in the last 14 days?
So that's going to limit the talent that they're going to be, yeah.
It's very location based. So if you're in New York, you're trying to get talent from New York. I mean, now it's easy to fly a photographer from LA because they're not on the list anymore.
Yeah,
so I can fly someone from LA, and the day after, he can be with me on a tech scout. And again, this is an ongoing process. If numbers get better in certain states, in 2 days, I could fly that person from Texas that I couldn't fly 2 days ago because Texas is not on the list anymore. And what if New Jersey had a spike and like it's
Right.
like on the other side of the river and I can't get somebody from New Jersey? So that is like, that's why it's ever evolving. But there are quarantine laws, and as much as we can test people, technically, the 14 days are there and you have to respect them.
Do you know if other cities have the same type of protocol like New York is, or is New York?
I do not know personally of other states that have these quarantine laws at the moment. I'm sure there are. I know California doesn't have them because I shot in LA mid-August, and there were, for example, no quarantine laws for people coming from New York to California, although I had to quarantine when I fly back to New York as a New Yorker. So I'm sure there are, but let's say the biggest markets, New York, LA, Atlanta, Chicago, don't have these quarantine laws. Other than New York, the others don't have these quarantine laws.
I would love to know, like, because of the COVID situation and big production with small production, how does it affect, like, what's the hardest challenging problem that you've seen? How do we solve these challenges? What are the problems and what are the solutions? Anything you can?
I mean, timelines, first of all. You can't ask someone to put together a team in 48 hours because you need to get people tested. And even just like a fast test, a 24-hour test, because there are 15-minute tests, but I don't trust most of them. There's also this kind of separation: antigen test versus PCR tests. I'm starting to sound like a doctor, but like that is an important thing to know. An antigen test is an antibody test. They're not as accurate. 1 out of 15 comes out as a false positive. I've had personally false positive on set. I sent them home. They weren't on set, but what if that false positive is not for an extra? Like if it was in that case, it was a background actor. What if it is for the major pop star I'm shooting the music video for? How do you solve that?
Or the director, or you,
the director, or myself. You know what I mean? So timelines are the first thing. You need more time to do things on the back end, at the beginning and pre-production, because you need to allow for this. Casting takes longer. People are not going in 2 days at a casting studio. They're taping self-submissions. Booking people takes longer. Booking crews. So that takes a little bit longer.
location scouting, like you talked about.
Exactly. On set, you have to allow for more time to shoot things because art department comes in first, set dressers, decks, then lighting technicians come in, and only then your camera comes in. So days have to be a little bit more extended. You can't be as ambitious with, like, Caleb shooting 7 locations, 40 shots, 3 days. It's just becomes almost impossible.
Right.
So these are the main, like, time challenges. There's cost, and then again, it's just like making sure that people are comfortable, because we're nothing without our crews. So we need them to be there and be happy and be safe.
And safe. I'm curious, Caleb, on your shoot before this shoot, you were in Seattle. How was that different? And how did you notice the shoot happening affected by COVID, that any of these situations came up?
Yeah, the shoot in Seattle was more of a pared down set, which was intentionally so. So I think another thing that they're doing now is they're really paring down sets just to keep everything more nimble, the better. And then also we are video conferencing in a lot of like agencies or creatives at the same time. So sometimes like the agency will send maybe one representative that'll be on set, and then you'll have like 5 or 6 other people at the agency. They'll be on a Zoom call or they'll be on a FaceTime or whatever, and we'll get like approvals literally by like showing your phone, or sometimes they'll have, if the budget allows for it, they'll have a direct Teradek line in, so they can actually see what is being displayed on the client monitors. But I would say, just back to your question, Seattle, in contrast to the shoot that I just did with Luigi, was a lot more pared down, but a lot of the same protocols were the same. They didn't require us, for whatever reason, to do a test in Seattle. I'm not sure why, but they just didn't. And but beyond that, everything else was pretty much the same. Again, it was box lunches, COVID officer on set. I mean, all the little nuances that we had to wear a wristband. Temperatures were checked twice a day. So yeah, a lot of similarities other than the rapid test that we had to do for Luigi's test or shoot.
One thing that
I've got a great question. Go ahead.
On this, I really, as the rep, and I'm doing these bids, I'm really careful about overtime. I feel like overtime is not okay like it used to be. Like, Luigi, do you agree with me?
I totally do.
People have masks on, they're working for 10 hours. It's enough.
Yeah, I mean, for us, the standard day is 12. I have been comfortable pushing it up to 14. Wow. But that has been the maximum amount. I mean, this job we were just on initially was budgeted as a 5-day, 14-hour shoot. And when you present 14 hours on paper, that means it's 16 hours at least for like the drivers for part of the cruise. And I had a discussion with the production company, and we were like, look, we don't want, like, I just can't have people working 16-hour days, 5 days in a row in close proximity with other people. So within the budget, this was not like us going to knock at the client door being like, hey, we need more money. We decided to make this a 6-day shoot, 12-hour days. We had a day that was 8 hours, and even less, probably 6 hours. It was a little longer for you, Caleb, because you went out to do the stills door stuff. But like in between the shoot, like after day 3, we were like, okay, let's have a easy day. Everybody goes home, they get some rest, and we get back in it. And yeah, I think, like, we hit like an hour of OT on one day, but that was it. I was in another shoot where we got a schedule, and like the day before the shoot, we were trying to figure out a way how to pare it down. On paper, it was an 18-hour day. And I was like, I had people come to me and be like, I'm not going to show up. And I was like, I'm not asking you to. So we came up with an idea on a whim, booked a second camera team, and shot 2 units, so that an 18-hour day magically became a 12. So can't like, again, like, we've all worked crazy hours. Like, I'm sure we all have a story about that shoot where we went 24 hours straight and it was terrible. It was terrible before, it is terrible now. The difference is now it's just not acceptable, and that's just how you got to do it, because everyone is more vulnerable, and
that's right.
You do not want to put people in those positions. Right. So absolutely not. 14 is already pushing it, but like, that to me is the maximum amount of time that a person can work. guaranteed he has all the turnaround he needs the day after too.
So there was a question from someone based in Nashville. He shoots a lot for Northeast clients because their cities are shut down. We've done it all remotely over Capture One and MS Teams with the clients in their own states. Do you see shoots being fully remote for a while? That's a question.
I mean, I think so. I think until we get a vaccine and things start to, alleviate in terms of, positive tests that are coming in across the nation, I just don't see, I mean, yeah, I think 100% we're going to see this for a while.
Okay. I agree and disagree. I agree that we're gonna have a lot of these moving forward, in particular when like specific talent is like, hey, I really want to, like, this is the photographer we're working with and this is the only way to get him there and to get him to shoot it, where you're like fully remote. But at the same time, I feel that we all got our fair share, and this is mostly video though rather than photo. We all got a fair share on TV of those like commercials where, we're just like this, four squares, Zoom, people talking on the phone, etc. And creatives coming out of agencies and coming out of clients are going to be asking for more and more of just like what we used to see on like purely a creative standpoint. And as things are reopening and getting closer to normalcy, we are seeing more of those and less of the like everyone's on Zoom, nobody's leaving their house kind of thing. So I think it's really both, because again, we are still in this state. People like got to quarantine, and if you really want someone, that's how you're doing it. You get them.
It seems so like, yes, this is right now, and it's good to learn from, but tomorrow could be really different. That's so hard to ask people like you, Luigi, and you, Caleb, and you, Hugh. We're based on knowing how to do an estimate. What if we do an estimate and it's, has to change?
I mean, there are amendments that production companies are asking for clients to sign, where, because insurance doesn't cover COVID related like cancellation costs or postponement costs. That is not an insurance thing. So client, agency, and production companies, producers, whatever, have to come to an agreement in good faith, where it's like, we do not know what's going to happen. We do not know what could happen tomorrow. We are going to negotiate in good faith what things, like, what this will cost, what it looks like. We don't know if additional costs may come up throughout production, but it's uncharted territories.
I feel like clients are, they're hip to this. They have to support this because we don't know.
You would be surprised.
Really?
Sometimes, most times I would say they do, but like I have seen riders and like agreements that are very much not in favor of production companies and agencies that are getting subcontracted by a client and getting paid by a client to do the job. So it's tough. It's tough to navigate at the moment.
Tough to navigate.
It's risky. It's like it's doing business in the real sense of the, like, the Wall Street way of just like you're doing business. You're out there in this world like doing something, and it's kind of risky.
It's kind of risky. And that's the importance of producing it correctly, what to expect. I mean, that's a whole other topic that we might get into next time, like how to estimate this and really protect ourselves. The question I asked before to everybody about the trends going on right now, attendees, please send us your thoughts on this too, and we will go over this at the end. We're going to share everything. So I feel like, because time's rushing on, we could talk about COVID the whole time, but I really want to get into a few other questions. We do have a question. Thomas asks, do you see more work for hires coming into the conversation? And if so, how do you navigate them? Anyone have an answer, or should I answer this?
Why don't you answer it?
Okay, work for hires. I often feel clients say that and they don't actually mean it. They'll say a buyout, we want the copyright. So I try to find out what do they really need it for. But our work for hire is coming up more right now. I have not noticed a significant change now. That's my answer. Should we ask any more COVID questions, Hugh? Do you have a thought on that, or can I move on? What do you think?
I think we can move on, to
Okay.
be honest.
Oh, Alex.
Alex,
Yeah, you're gonna ask that.
what would be your number one piece of advice for a photographer trying to break into the commercial automotive space?
Caleb?
And in a lot of testing, just because I think when I started breaking into the automotive space, I was fortunate enough to assist with a lot of photographers that were automotive guys, and so I was able to kind of learn how to shoot a car, how to shoot an automobile. It's a lot different than shooting portrait or shooting even just random product, because you're dealing with reflection is such a different thing than just standard lighting or traditional key lighting or whatever. You just let the light cars a completely different way than you might a human being. So just a lot of testing, just getting familiar with shooting cars, shooting sheet metal, how that works, how the reflections work. Using a polarizer is a huge thing. Understanding how a polarizer works and how it affects the sheet metal on a car. And then honestly, just test the crap out of it, because learning the angles of a car is a big thing too. And I see a lot of people that are trying to break into it, and God bless you guys, you're doing it, but like knowing how to shoot a car is really big. So I would say study the automotive photographers that are out there that are kind of crushing the game. Like, pay attention to the angles, because the angles are such a huge part of shooting automobiles.
So did you say assist? You said assist and test.
I'd say assist and assist and test. And, man, automobiles are tricky. It's one of those things that you don't learn. You can't just bust into it over. You can't get lucky. Like I feel like lifestyle and portraiture, it's like, okay, you could have an amateur go out and come back with some really great images, and you would never know. They could put them in portfolio and be like, oh, that looks like anybody else. But cars it's a whole different beast. So just test a ton, and ask your buddies or people that find a mentor, find somebody that's doing it, get in with them and understand the industry, because it's an entirely different field than standard lifestyle or product or whatever else.
But isn't there like a large component of the retouching as part of that knowledge base, and connecting with someone that has that skill set and collaborating with them together, especially when you're starting out?
100%. Yeah. If you don't have the skill set yourself, I'm fortunate enough to, I kind of come from a retouching background. So when I started busting into the automotive, at least on my personal stuff and my photography, I had already done several years of automotive retouching. So I understood that. But yeah, I would say if you don't have that skill set, and it is an entirely different skill set as a retoucher, if you have put some money towards it. You're going to have to, give yourself $2,000 budget or whatever, find some retoucher that'll work with you on it, has good work. And a lot of these guys, they'll work with you, especially now in the day of COVID where work is kind of slow. Just reach out to a ton of different people, and you'll more than likely find somebody that's willing
Many will do a free test.
Yeah, a lot of them will do free tests too. But yeah, retouching is huge, especially if you don't know how to do it yourself.
I think
your car image from zero to a hero. So.
I think the challenge too with cars is that it's hard to do it on your own.
Yeah, it is. Because you have to have somebody that's driving, So it's like whenever I do a test, I have at least 3 or 4 people, and that's a pretty nimble crew for a car. So you need a driver. You need. Oftentimes, I'll do car-to-car shooting, so I'll hang out the back of my Honda Element, like going 40 miles down the highway. Totally illegal. I don't recommend this. But you have to have a driver, you have to have a photographer, then you have to have another driver for the other car, and then you need probably somebody else just to help wipe the car down when it gets dusty or whatever. So yeah,
I feel like
not easy to test, but you got to do it. If you want to break into that space, you got to do it, and do a lot of it.
you and I could talk about car photography all day.
There is one more question about autos, if you guys want to.
Go for it.
Do you see auto clients who are open to the idea of having you learn important details from the team of designers / engineers? What type of studying are you able to do beforehand per client?
Hmm.
I'm thinking about research on your company.
Yeah, I'd say just familiarize yourself with the brand. That's something I always do before every automotive test, because a lot of these different automotive brands, they have a look, they have a style, and especially if you're going to go in and bid to get some or write a treatment for it for a potential project, get really familiar with their look, get really familiar with their style, how they like to shoot cars, and yeah, just educate yourself for sure, 100%.
You know, I've done test shoots for, if I'm being considered for a job, let's say, I will actually go to the extent of testing, doing something to test and bring that into my treatment also. So I will go that far for it because I'm passionate about the project.
Yeah,
And maybe that's another suggestion that I think I'm just mirroring what you're saying in a sense.
it's a great suggestion. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a good one. I
Go ahead.
I want to dive into, because we're moving fast with time. Luigi, producers are now getting jobs with photographers directly a lot, right? Is this a new thing? I've noticed it a lot more in the last year, 1 year, maybe.
I mean, I've been asked more and more to get photographers on board. I mean, it's like, I guess this trio, me, you, and Caleb, are a good example of this, because we got in touch because Caleb had already worked for, I believe it was the agency rather than the client that brought Caleb on board for that job. Me and Caleb met, then I hit you up again about Caleb for another job, and that's how we're all here today as well. So I definitely have been seeing more and more, just like it, because the way it's going to work, it's either the client or the agency are going to be like on the video shoot where we're also doing, hey, director X, Y, and Z. Is there a photographer you like working with? Do you want to give us some names? Because there is always the need to do stills. So then, it's either the director or myself being like, hey, these are photographers I think could work for the job. And then that's how we get into this. I think I'd bounce back the question to you. Are you seeing this much more right now in the last 12 months? Was it agencies and or clients coming direct before? Like
It's been both,
Got it.
which I found shocking. Like the ad agency actually working through the producer to find the photographer. I was like, wow, what is going on?
Yeah, but I mean, if someone doesn't know you're trying to find, a photographer right for a particular project, then they don't have the experience with that particular type of product, let's say, maybe it is a good idea to reach out to a producer who has had that experience working with the photographers. It's a third person. It's not going to be insulting to the photographer if that producer says, I don't think that's the right guy. It's might be a safer place for them to go do the research and look for that help.
I think the challenge is, how do us on the photographer side of things, Luigi, how do we find you? How do we get to you?
I think like it's more than, it's tough, yeah, because like of course I'm the one that's then like kind of making those calls and sending those names, but I'm a freelance producer. I work for 30 different production companies. I get hired, so and it's not like I wouldn't recommend reach out to the production company, because like production companies are going to hire line producers to do jobs.
Mm.
I think the most important thing, and this is for photographers versus reps, or also reps, is establishing connections with directors,
Mhm.
because the director is the person that requires a producer to come on the job, will recommend director of photographies, production designers, all the key creative people. So if photographers, like if you're on Instagram and like you see this director that has like this pretty cool motion work and you've kind of shot similar stuff, similar clients, etc., reach out. Hey, you do dope work. You do dope work too. Maybe we should collaborate. And then you'll like, when you're in that position, because an agency, if they've hired a director for a commercial, for a video, they are going to want the director to give the input and be like, who do you think could be a good fit? Who do you work well on set with? Like, me and Caleb have worked with like the same director 4 times. The 3 of us really work well together. It's a great creative partnership, but it's also a very efficient partnership. Like, we know each other, we know how we work. I know what Caleb needs, I know what Tucker needs. And Tucker and Caleb know like to give each other space when they need to. Because like, that was the biggest thing when me and Caleb worked together the first time. He was like, oh, like, I'm enjoying working with you, because like, you give me time, you give me space. Like, and I was like, how does it work normally? I was like, sometimes like, it's like the still photographer on a video shoot is not like, they just tell me to do it in 30 seconds. I mean, I've asked Caleb to do it in 30 seconds. Sometimes he delivers, but like, whenever I can, I'll give him the time. You know what I mean? So it's really the directors. And then of course, like producers, like connecting with reps, so that I can ask you, like, if it wasn't the right job for Caleb, but you have other talent, like having the relationship with a producer and knowing that I can come to you and be like, hey, Andrea, I need this kind of photographer for this kind of thing. And, like.
It is interesting because people like you, it seems like once you like someone, a rep and a photographer, we're in. Like once you're in, which is a different feeling than ad agencies, really.
Yeah. Like ad agencies definitely hop around a lot more than a good relationship with a producer or director. And I will say that, like, honestly, I've had several jobs now that I just work with the same producer, like Luigi. There's another producer that I work with, this one I do within the Seattle job with, and I've known her forever. And I think a lot of producers are becoming almost like in bed with the client themselves. And so you oftentimes I'm finding that you'll have a producer that just basically has a client, I mean, it might not be official or whatever, but that's the person that we're going to call this person whenever we get this job. And if you're in with that producer, then it's like, hey, so I get there's a fair share of work that I'm starting to pull in just because I have those, producers connections.
And I agree. The clients, once they find the producer, they stay.
Yeah. Productions, I feel like, obviously Luigi, you can speak more to this, but I'm finding that out to be a lot more because, you get a good relationship with people. They trust you. They know that you can get the stuff done. And then, you can bring in the creative.
Yeah.
So does the future hold that you're going to be, Luigi, you're going to be getting emails from photographers to show their portfolio to you like they do to art directors? Is that what's going on? Is that the future?
Producers get, like, I get like Instagram DMs and stuff like this. Hey, like, I would love to collaborate. And this is photographers that see that, like, I post mostly video work. It's stills, but like, it's video work. And so I do get those, and I'm like, I'm super stoked, like when I get that, because first of all, it's like, it's recognition of like, oh, you're doing good work, and then like having those connections and like seeing like also, not every person is right for every job, and also giving opportunity to people, whether it's like a younger photographer or like a photographer that has like something I'm like, oh, like I've never seen this before. So it's like, it's amazing to see that, and like I'm very careful at like always remembering these things too, because it's so easy. Like, you're on Instagram and email, whatever it is, like it gets lost. And I'm like, oh, like let me sit down today and like look at those DMs, emails, and just like save these contacts. Like I have my little list, who's like lifestyle, food, whatever,
It's very intimidating for us, I think, because of what you're describing. There's no system to it. Where at ad agencies, what I'm used to in the past, there's a system. You get on their list and they come to you and they know you're photographers. But people like you, individuals, as you're saying, it's like, well, I got to remind myself tonight I'm going to look at my DMs. There's not a system. Like we have Workbook and At Edge and wonderful machine. Like we can pay and Boulevard, Production Paradise, but our producers looking at these sites, we're paying for these sites. I don't know. There's not a system yet.
There isn't, I think. And I mean, for my specific case, like, I'm a very kind of like independent kind of DIY producer where like I have my own production company. I run stuff through my own production company. I also work for a lot of production companies, but like I'm hopping around. So, and it's always like I'm been lucky enough to be busy. So it's like I do like set reminders and things, but at the same time, with the amount to come in, because I'm also like I'll say no to 7 jobs and like pass 7 jobs to 7 different producers I still work with, and they'll come back to me and be like, hey, I'm looking for a photographer for that job. I'm not on that job, I'm not involved, but like I'll be still sending out like a contact or two, and it's great to then see how like dots connect like that.
Yeah.
So I think it is very fluid and there is no like set rules anymore. And I think it's gonna be like this a little bit more, just because again, budgets are a little tougher. There is more uncertainty, so people are doing things in different ways. Some
Right.
production companies don't have the capacity to produce certain projects that an independent producer with a production company and basically zero overhead costs, like I can make things happen that they can't. So they're going to subcontract me to make those things happen. And I'll be like subcontracted by them, but really by the agency. So it's
Such a system without a system, I think. But I also,
agree.
my food photographer, Vinny, we bid on a job out of an agency in New York, and the agency wasn't even a part of it. The agency had the production company bid 3 food photographers. But the agency didn't even really, I never talked to them. We never had a creative call. It's like a whole new, and this food shoot was separate from the motion, from the broadcast commercial. Broadcast would be one day, stills would be another. So they weren't even together.
Huh.
It's just
So
so what?
it was an outside producer. It was an outside producer from the agency.
No, it was a
That-
production company the agency hired to handle
Got
this.
And was
Got
the
it.
production company bidding all 3 photographers?
Yes,
Okay, man, that is interesting.
I know.
Yeah.
So the question of how to get to you people, I mean, I don't think there's really an answer yet, but I think it's gonna be the big question.
Drop
Yeah.
my email in the chat, and for
Yeah,
one
but how do
producer,
we,
it's
like,
done.
we do email promos. I sent one this morning to I don't know how many thousands of people. No producers were probably on that.
Not yet.
We don't have these lists.
Yeah.
It's not been our focus, and I think it has to.
Well, there's just so many. I feel like there's so many boutique production. I mean, like Luigi, you're your own thing. You're a boutique thing. You're not a part of some
Right.
agency that you can just look up and then see who they have on their roster or get you on LinkedIn. It's just I feel like it's an ever rotating door with boutique producers. Because I know producers, I know people that produce really big stuff, and then next week they're styling on something. It's random. You guys wear a lot of hats.
Gosh, we're running out of time. What do we do?
Oh,
Should we move on quickly to reps, or should we?
I think reps. What do you guys up? Or is there anything else you guys want to add, Luigi and Caleb, or
Thoughts?
I think
you want to go into reps?
Okay, reps.
Let's go
Let's
reps.
talk a minute about the topic of reps. Luigi, are you in touch with many reps for photographers?
I'm in touch with a few, yeah.
How did you find them, or they found you?
Normally I'll either, like we found each other through like an agency, but then like I'll ask other directors, hey, who have you worked with? And I'll find photographers first and then see who they're repped by, and then go to the rep website and see who else they rep. I love doing this kind of research because the more I know, the better, the more resources I can provide.
Interesting. Very interesting. You see the importance of reps, people. um, Caleb, you've been repped for a while. Did things change for you? How did being repped kind of make it happen for you? Or like, what did you learn from it? Any thoughts on reps?
Yeah, so you're my third rep. So I think I had a little bit of a journey landing a relationship with a rep that I really felt like I just really clicked. Um, so, the first one I had was, way back in the day, and it just, for whatever reason, it didn't work out. Um, she wasn't bringing me a lot of work. Kind of the same with my next rep, who I still have a really great relationship with, and her, she throws us jobs whenever. I mean, God bless her. Holy crap, that's amazing. She's so cool that she does that. But her roster was a lot more editorial and music based, and I didn't really fit that. And then obviously when I came on with you, everything just kind of aligned because you're focused on a lot of the similar clients that I'm looking at booking, and vice versa. So, for me, it didn't change until honestly I met a rep that like fit, So I think that's a misconception is a lot of these photographers, I just want to be repped. I want to be repped. I want to be repped so bad. I'll have all kinds of work. And it's just like, this is not true. I think if anything, they broaden your network and they allow you to kind of get in front of people that you might not already get in front of, but the work doesn't stop there. It's like you still got to test, you still got to put the hard work in because you got to give your rep material to keep promoting you. And so, yeah, I think, meeting you, having a relationship with you is like I said, I think it's allowed me to get in front of a lot more people that I normally wouldn't have. And that's a good thing, but it has to match, like the two other reps I had, it didn't matter who she put me in front of because it was a wrong fit for the clients that she had relationships with. So I think it's really important when you're looking for a rep to find a rep that has those clients that you actually want to shoot for. And then on top of that, I feel like you don't go to a rep, don't try to seek out a rep that has your exact carbon copy of a talent on it. You know what I mean? Because then you're competing with somebody that she already has. Because I mean, correct, you obviously know more than I do about this, Andrea, in terms of who you represent. I feel like it gets a little tricky when you start representing photographers that are identical in style and approach and everything else. So for me, I think it's find a rep that has the clients that you want to shoot for. Find a rep that that you can actually benefit her or his roster, and then find one that you just like click with. Honestly, I think that's a big thing. If you can get along with your rep, if you can have a good open communication, if she's working as hard for you as you're working for her, it's just a symbiotic relationship. So,
Well said. Hugh, what do you think?
Well, I had an agent right when I started my career, and we were together for 24 years. So I agree with Caleb. It's like a relationship. It's like a marriage. Okay. But when it ended, it wasn't caught in like a deer in headlights, but I had to develop the tools that he had, i.e. estimating, writing a treatment and all this. And for anybody that's starting out, I really advise that they get those talents, they get those skills on how to estimate, how to write a treatment, how to show how to show your book, but those behind the scenes things that go on in a job, I think people should know those skills so they're better informed on what to expect from a rep also. And marketing also is a huge part of that, so that you don't go in there with expectations. You've experienced it, and then you collaborate together with that rep and come up with a solution that both of you can live with. Going in there without that knowledge, I think, is not a great idea. So
I think photographers just have this stars in their eyes about, oh, you get a rep and everything's just going to be perfect. Oh, I'm rep now. I'm going to make millions of dollars.
In fact, it's more from the beginning of my career. I mean, I've seen it's more of a collaboration together. Photographers are doing more of that promoting now than ever. So it is full time for the agent, full time for the photographer. Mm-hmm. That's what and it's the photographer who's it's becoming more of a personality out there than just the work too.
Yeah.
So you have to develop those skills. Yeah.
I could talk about this for days. Luigi, I know you're a little more time constrained than us, so I want to ask you, what was I just going to ask you? Damn, I hate when thoughts are right there and then they go. There it is. Instagram. Do you, Luigi, if you're looking at a photographer, do you go look on their Instagram?
Yes. I do like the website more, and this is just like, you know, I'm young, but I'm old fashioned. Like, I'd rather see a nice big website on my monitor rather than like Instagram photos. I'm not like one of those guys that's gonna be like, oh, this guy's got 100,000 followers, this guy's got 50,000, the 100,000 guy one is better. Like, I don't like, that's not a thing for me. I try and find photographers on Instagram first and then go to their website, but ultimately for me the website is the bigger thing, because it's like I can see where he's repped, I can see most of the work he's done. I feel like it gives a better sense of work, although, like, you know, now, and including myself, and as a producer I don't really need to. It's like you kind of tailor both, and sometimes your work is more updated on Instagram versus your website, because it takes so much time to post a photo versus going into whatever, you know, Squarespace, whatever it is.
What if they were not active on Instagram? Like their last feed post was 3 months ago. Would you hesitate?
I wouldn't. 3 months ago, I wouldn't. If they hadn't posted anything since 2018, then I'd be like, oh, interesting, weird. But that's like a trend, like that's a social media trend. It's like, oh, they used to post all of this stuff and now they don't post anymore. Maybe he's done with Instagram. I'll still like go on a website. I may ask a question if I'm like hitting up the rep, being like, hey, what's he done recently in the last 6 months? I'll try and like politely inquire if I have like a feeling that something's a little off. But like, I post once every 2 months. I go on Instagram like not every day. So it's like I on that, like, it's Instagram is optics a lot, and I don't trust the optics. I'd rather hop on the phone with someone and talk with a rep or the photographer.
But it sounds like it's a part of it, but not the main thing.
I think it's self promotion, and like, as you know, Caleb is saying, it's like, you like, even if you have a rep, as we're all saying, like, you still need to promote yourself. And like, Instagram is a great tool. Instagram's been a great tool for me as well. Like, I've posted work and had people hit me up being like, hey, I'd love to work with you. So it's definitely important. Personally, not a deal breaker, not as important, although I know there are a lot of people that are paying close attention to Instagram accounts.
Caleb, you have a lot of followers. Do you feel it's helped your career?
I mean, again, I think it's a good marketing tool. I think it, for me, I personally feel like it kind of stops there. But what I do think it's good for is keeping up with relationships with agencies that you've shot with. You know, keeping them on the forefront. I mean, anytime I see someone post like an somebody that I work with in the agency, and it's not disingenuous, but it's just like, hey, I want to keep up this relationship. I really enjoyed working with you on the last set. I'm gonna say, oh my God, like, your kid's so cute, or whatever. You know, just constantly just be in relationship with them. You know, I think that's to me I mean, an even bigger benefit to Instagram than just the classic self-promotion. So I mean, not that self-promotion is not the main thing, but keeping in contact with the people that I've already shot with is, like, I feel like the biggest thing I get out of Instagram personally. The count, I don't think the count matters anymore. I got my followers because way back in the day, Instagram would, curate photographers. So if you were new to the account, they would say, oh, hey, here's this new guy. And they would actually feature you for 2 weeks. So that's how I got a lot of my followers. They don't do that anymore, I don't think. But it's weird now because since they've changed the algorithm, I think it was like a year ago, like the engagement is just way down on Instagram. I personally feel like it's kind of going the way of Facebook a little bit, where you know, the newer, hotter platforms are like TikTok or maybe, you know, Snapchat. And that's where the youth is gravitating towards. So, but that's not to say that it's still not a great marketing tool. It's not to say it's not a great tool for keeping up with existing clients. But I don't know if a numbers thing is as important unless you're into the Instagram game to be an influencer and you want to get hired as an influencer or a brand ambassador or something like that. But then even at that, I feel like, you know, you're engaged. I mean, dude, that is like such a full-time job. I don't know how you could possibly do that, because those kinds of people that are constantly being like playing the influencer game. I mean, it's every day. You go to their story and it's like 13 stories every single day. I mean, it is a full-time job. And like, for me personally, I just can't imagine like trying to keep my art at a certain level while doing that, especially, you know, having an 18-month-old and a family. You know, I just like,
Yeah.
I'll let the 16-year-olds play the Instagram influencer.
Although I gotta say, during COVID, when it was quiet, you did the building of the time lapse of building your office.
Yeah, interesting. And that's one thing that's really interesting, is I feel like I got more engagement from, you know, people that I've worked with. I mean, fellow photographers, I mean, across the board. I mean,
Potential clients.
potential clients, just showing them my daily life, nothing related to photography at all. In fact, far removed from it. And they're just like, I mean, you know, they just love to see like the project I was working on. It was something that was kind of engaging and fun to follow, you know, day to day. They could see the process. So, I mean, there's a lot of value in that as well. And that's something I actually probably will try to explore a little more, as like for me personally, my hobby is just building things and construction in general, or, you know, I'm going to build a chicken coop here next. I'm going to document that whole thing, you know?
It's you. And I think that's the whole point of marketing. People want to know you, get a sense of
Right.
you.
Yeah. It's more about your personality, or a lot more these days. Yeah.
Each topic that we're talking about, I feel like I could keep talking and listening, talking, but I know we gotta hurry because Luigi's got to go. So have we heard from attendees about the trends of now, what they're seeing, what's going on right now? Anything we need to share?
Not that I'm seeing.
Oh, I see one from Amsterdam.
Actually, yeah, it looks like, yeah. Guys, chipping in from Amsterdam, okay. Totally different scene here. All I do these days is contacting producers instead of art or creative directors. Art buyers are almost non-existing here. Producers will be the first suggesting photographers to their team and clients. Interesting. So it's happening over there. So photographers seems to be sending their portfolios to producers.
Interesting.
Luigi, the future, dude.
Smart.
Hit me up.
Get ready. Get ready to get inundated.
So any final comments or words of wisdom from you two, both of you, all three of you?
I just say test a bunch, put it out there, contact as many people as you can. But testing, I feel like, is the bread and butter.
Yeah, and enjoy the process too. Don't just have fun with it. Luigi, I'm sorry.
I agree. I mean, like kind of tying it all together, COVID testing is going to be fundamental, and there are talks of tests that are going to be so inexpensive and so quick and so accurate that if and when they actually come out, we're going to be back into normalcy. Because we're literally talking. There's talks of a test that is right now. Tests are normally $200 to $300 per test. You could go down to $5 per test.
Wow.
97% accuracy and 15-minute turnarounds. And those are not going to eliminate masks. Those are not going to eliminate social distancing guidelines, but those are going to allow productions to keep working safely, quickly, and test people every single day, which is even greater because you don't know what people do outside of work. And that's, another thing. But other than that, yeah, it's I still think that creative always comes first, even at these times. So doing good work in a safe way is the way forward, and empowering photographers, producers, crews, reps, and facilitating clients and agencies and giving them this work is what we should all be striving for.
And it says to me that work is going to keep happening. We're not shutting down. Just from this, what I've learned from talking to you.
I
today.
don't see work shutting down at the
Yeah,
moment.
interesting.
I hope my feeling is right. We could have a second wave. We've learned a lot from the first, so I don't see us going back to where we were at in March in our homes, not knowing what would come next.
Right.
I do see, maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks in which like you can't work in a specific place and you kind of gotta take it slow.
Adjust.
There's gonna be a lot of adjustments, but yet again, safe, inexpensive tests, potentially a vaccine at some point, without going into the whole, like vaccine thing, which is not really for us. But as we figure this out, working safely and trying to do good work, which I think is everybody's end goal in the end.
A final personal question. I always try to ask this because I like to. If COVID hits us again and everything, oh boy, that goes against what we just learned. How would you spend your time? Any thoughts?
Building a chicken coop.
And get on TikTok. Getting a TikTok. I guess I've acted upon this because I live alone. I just signed a new lease with 2 good friends and 2 directors I collaborate with. So if COVID hits, like again, my big thing is I'm not going to be in my apartment alone, but I'll have 2 friends, collaborators to hang out with. So I guess this is my big change.
Your pod.
Exactly.
Nice. Hugh, what about you?
Well, I'm working on projects. I got 2 big projects I'm working on, so I'm going to just continue working on that. So, and I find a lot of joy in it. So that's me. Yeah. What about you? What
Well,
do you do?
I got to be honest. Some days I feel like I'm a very stay-at-home person anyway, but I feel like I'm going a bit crazy with it. And then some days I find it the best thing that's ever happened. Like it's so calming and I'm just getting a lot done. And so I feel a little schizophrenic type of, yeah, both on this. All right. So here we are out of time. Thank you, Art. Thank you for doing this. Our beautiful guests sharing of yourselves. I look forward to seeing you all next month. But stay tuned for our wrap chat with Hugh and I, because we're going to do this after. And Hugh?
Gentlemen, thank you very, very much for attending, for sharing your knowledge with us. I speak for the rest of the board and our audience. Thank you very much.
Guys.
You guys, this was fun.
Okay, good. Be well, be safe.
Yeah. So
Always.
everybody, attendees, stay with us, but we're saying goodbye to Caleb and goodbye to Luigi for now.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
See you
you.
later.
Bye-bye.
Hugh, what do you think?
Cool guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so great to see that 2 different perspectives, one on the creative side, one on the producing side of a similar situation. So, and it's so great to hear how we are navigating the unknown. They are out there in the front lines navigating the unknown and bringing us back this information that is so important. It's great to hear that it's not, yes, it is a unfortunate thing that's happening, but there's ways to maneuver through it.
Yeah.
I mean, photographers are creative people, they are problem solvers, and lo and behold, of course, photographers are going to figure it out,
Yeah. So opposite of when all this started,
Yeah.
we thought we were doomed as
Yeah.
far as the business.
Oh my gosh.
And to me, this today says we're not doomed.
Yeah. I talked to Tom Kennedy, who was the president of ASMP early on, and he was just saying, my phone is ringing off the hook. This is back in March. He said, it's just everyone's running around with like a chicken with their head cut off, and it seems like it's really calmed down a lot as everyone figures it all out. So
What
and
I do, yeah,
I
go.
think we're a big part of that. At least for this market, we're helping everyone.
I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I feel like a part of what did happen is good for us because we all had to get a bit more creative, figure out, okay, our old system, it's kind of like how we talk a lot about producers and production companies and getting in with them. We don't really know yet, but we got to get creative and figure out some new things. And like how Caleb did that time lapse of building his office, and he did so well on Instagram with it. It's like things you might not think of in the normal sense. And maybe we're still in that, and we're going to keep proceeding, but we got to figure out how.
Well, that was great information about his, revealing his personal life a little bit more. I've
Yeah.
been like, business, and so that was great information for me to learn.
Mm-hmm. And I got to say, he didn't even. I do know that some clients were even talking to him, and now he's on their list because of that.
That's good.
Yeah.
Good. That's really good to know. Good.
Yeah. All right. Well, oh, here's a question.
All right. So not a question, but I am a working commercial portrait photographer in Phoenix, and most of my contacts to get work locally are producers. And now a lot of the work I'm getting out of the state are from producers or production companies. So good to know. Thank you, Thomas.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
This is a big thing.
That's important to know. So good. Okay.
Gotta thank
Anything
you.
else?
So we'll see you. We'll do it in a month. Well, yeah, we'll do this again.
1 month. We'll be together again in 1 month. Go out and vote. We both voted, right?
Please.
And join APA as soon as you possibly can. We're here about you guys. We're advocating for you, and at least giving us a sense of community. That's our objective. I want to thank
Hub of information.
Hub of information. I want to say thank you to Sammy's, who's been a sponsor of ours, and to you, Andrea.
Oh.
And all the people behind the scenes. I want to put a shout out to Patty Silverstein.
Patty, love you, Patty.
Love you. Love you, love you, love you. And all my fellow board members, thanks for being there. And just keep in contact with us. Keep posted. We'll keep you posted on other things too, okay? Anything else you want to add?
No. See you in a month.
In a month, love. All right. Take care. Bye.